You're sitting across from a man who killed someone. You know he did it. He knows he did it. The prosecutor has security footage, 3 witnesses, and a confession he gave before you ever walked into the room. Your job isn't to believe him. Your job is to defend him anyway. This is criminal defense work, not the version you see on television where brilliant attorneys uncover the real killer in Act 3. The actual version where most of your clients are guilty and the system still requires you to stand between them and the full weight of the state. You passed the bar 6 years ago thinking you'd be protecting the innocent. You were wrong about what the work actually involves. The case file lands on your desk Monday morning, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Your client is Marcus Webb, 34, 2 prior convictions for possession, 1 for battery. He got into an argument outside a bar in South Memphis. The argument became a fight. The fight became Marcus pulling a knife and putting it into someone's ribcage. The victim survived, barely. Collapsed lung, internal bleeding, 6 hours of surgery. He'll carry the scar for the rest of his life. The evidence is suffocating. Surveillance cameras caught Marcus entering the bar at 9:47 p.m. and leaving at 11:23 p.m., visibly agitated. The altercation happened in the parking lot at 11:31 p.m. under lights bright enough to film a movie. 2 cameras, multiple angles, 0 ambiguity. The victim identifies Marcus immediately. A bouncer who broke up the fight gives a statement matching the footage frame by frame. Marcus himself told the responding officers he did it, said the guy deserved it, said he'd do it again. Your first meeting with Marcus happens in a holding cell that smells like disinfectant and something else you've learned not to think about. He's wearing county orange, hands cuffed, looking at 15 years minimum if this goes to trial, and a jury hears what you've heard. He doesn't claim innocence, doesn't spin some elaborate story about self-defense or mistaken identity. He says the victim talked about his sister, says things got heated, says it happened fast. You ask him what he wants from you. He looks confused by the question, like the answer should be obvious. He wants to go home, wants this to disappear, wants you to make the kind of magic that doesn't exist outside of screenplays. You explain reality instead. The evidence, the witnesses, the confession. You explain that trials aren't about truth, they're about what the state can prove, and the state can prove all of this without breaking a sweat. He asks what happens if he pleads guilty. You walk him through it. Sentencing guidelines, aggravating factors, his prior record working against him like weight on a scale. Best case scenario with a plea, he's looking at 8 to 10 years. He'll be 44 when he gets out, assuming good behavior, assuming the system works the way it's supposed to. Then he asks the question clients always ask, can you win? Here's what you don't say. You don't say that winning means different things depending on where you're sitting. You don't say that the prosecution's case is airtight and any lawyer who promises victory is either lying or delusional. You don't say that the entire concept of winning has become so warped in your mind that you're not sure what it means anymore. What you do say is that you'll fight for the best possible outcome, that every case has angles, pressure points, procedural requirements the state has to meet, that your job is finding every single one and exploiting it until there's nothing left to exploit. This is the part civilians don't understand. Defense attorneys aren't in the business of deciding guilt or innocence. That's what juries do, what judges do, what the system theoretically exists to determine. Your job is making sure the system actually works the way it claims to. That means holding the prosecution to their burden of proof. That means challenging evidence that was obtained illegally. That means ensuring your client's constitutional rights weren't violated somewhere between the arrest and the arraignment. Sometimes that means defending people who absolutely did the thing they're accused of. Marcus did it. The evidence proves it. But evidence doesn't present itself. Witnesses don't cross-examine themselves. Constitutional protections don't enforce themselves. Someone has to stand in that courtroom and make the state work for their conviction, because the moment we stop doing that, the moment we decide some defendants are too guilty to deserve representation, the entire framework collapses. You start building the defense that night. Not a defense that claims innocence because that ship sailed the moment Marcus opened his mouth to the police. A defense that focuses on mitigation, on context, on making Marcus appear human instead of monstrous when the jury looks at him. You dig into his background. Raised by a single mother who worked 2 jobs. Older brother killed in a drive-by when Marcus was 16, dropped out of school to help with bills. The prior convictions start looking less like a pattern of criminality and more like what happens when someone grows up in a neighborhood where options narrow early and stay narrow. None of this excuses stabbing someone in a parking lot, but it adds dimension, creates space between the act and the person, gives the jury something to hold on to besides the surveillance footage and the victim's testimony. The prosecution offers a deal. Plead to aggravated assault, accept 12 years. They'll recommend parole eligibility after 8. It's standard. It's reasonable by the system's logic. You present it to Marcus and watch him process numbers that represent more than a decade of his life converted into a transaction. He asks what happens if he says no. If he takes it to trial, you tell him the truth. The jury sees the footage, hears the confession, and comes back with a guilty verdict before lunch. The judge, unbound by plea negotiations, sentences him to the maximum, 15 years, possibly more with enhancements. No parole consideration until he's served 85%. Marcus sits with this for a long time. Then he tells you he wants to fight it, wants his day in court, wants to tell his side even though his side won't change the outcome. You've seen this before. The irrational human need to be heard, to have someone listen to the full story even when the full story doesn't matter legally. You tell him you'll prepare for trial, that you'll build the strongest defense possible given what you're working with, that you'll cross-examine every witness, challenge every piece of evidence, make the prosecution prove every element beyond reasonable doubt. What you don't tell him is that you'll lose, that the case is unwinnable by any conventional metric, that the best you can hope for is planting enough doubt to maybe, possibly get one juror to hesitate during deliberations. But here's what nobody tells you in law school. Sometimes the right thing and the legal thing are so far apart, you need a telescope to see both at the same time. You call your captain at 6 in the morning. He picks up on the second ring like he's been waiting. You tell him you need to recuse yourself from the industrial park case. Personal conflict. You don't elaborate. He doesn't ask. There's a pause that lasts long enough for you to hear him processing what this means. Then he tells you to come in at 8 and bring everything you have. The meeting lasts 12 minutes. You hand over your notes, your preliminary reports, everything except the pieces you pulled through channels that don't exist on paper. Your captain accepts the file without reading it, assigns the case to Hendricks, a solid investigator who'll follow procedure exactly and won't look past what's directly in front of him, which is what you're counting on. You walk out of that office knowing you just bought time. Not much. Maybe a week before Hendricks finds the same threads you found. Maybe less if he's sharper than you're giving him credit for. Raymond calls that afternoon. You don't pick up. He calls again an hour later. You let it ring. The third time, you answer. He asks if you're okay. You tell him you're handling it. The lie sits between you like something physical. He knows. You know he knows. Neither of you says it out loud. 3 days pass. You work other cases. Paperwork. Interviews on a domestic that turned into an aggravated assault. Routine things that keep your hands busy and your brain from circling back to the same question over and over. What happens when the right choice destroys everything you've built? Hendricks finds the shell company connection on day 4. You're in the break room when you hear him talking to the captain through the open door. The LLC, the property records, the pattern emerging exactly the way it emerged for you. Your coffee goes cold in your hand while you listen to him lay it out piece by piece. The captain tells him to pull financials on anyone connected to those properties. Standard procedure. Hendricks says he'll have it by end of week. You have 48 hours. That night, you meet Raymond at a diner 20 miles outside the city. The kind of place that's all laminate tables and fluorescent lights and waitresses who've stopped caring about anything except their shift ending. He's already in a booth when you arrive. 2 cups of coffee on the table. Neither of them touched. You sit down. He looks older than he did a week ago. Worn down in a way that's got nothing to do with age and everything to do with carrying weight that was never meant to be carried this long. He tells you he's been thinking about turning himself in, just walking into the federal building and putting it all on the table. The organization, the structure, names and addresses and account numbers. Everything. He says it like he's been rehearsing it, like he's trying to convince himself as much as you. You ask him what he thinks that looks like, what he thinks happens to someone who built infrastructure for an operation that's been running for 20 years when he decides to cooperate. He doesn't answer. He doesn't need to. You've both seen enough to know exactly how that story ends. Witness protection only works if the people looking for you don't have the resources to look everywhere forever. The organization Raymond helped build has both. They've got reach into places federal marshals can't protect. They've got patience measured in years, not months. He'd be trading one kind of prison for another. Federal custody until trial, then a cell if he's lucky, or a shallow grave if he's not. Either way, he's gone. You tell him there's another option. He could run. Disappear before Hendricks connects enough dots to get a warrant. You've got contacts who owe you. People who can move someone off the grid if the price is right and the questions stay unasked. Raymond shakes his head. Says he's tired of running from things that are already inside him. That putting distance between himself and the consequences doesn't change what he did. Doesn't bring back the man in the industrial park. Doesn't undo 20 years of choices that bent in one direction only. The diner is nearly empty. A trucker at the counter. A couple in the corner booth not talking to each other. The waitress refilling coffee nobody asked for. Outside, the parking lot is dark, except for one streetlight throwing shadows that don't quite reach the building. You sit there looking at your brother, the man who kept you alive when alive wasn't guaranteed, who paid for a future he knew he'd never be part of, who made choices you'd spend the rest of your career arresting people for making. You think about the badge in your pocket, the oath you took, the cases you closed because you believed the system worked when people worked it correctly. You think about all the times you sat across from someone and told them the law doesn't bend just because their reasons were good. Then you think about being 13 years old with nowhere to go and nobody coming. You reach into your jacket. For a second, Raymond tenses. Old instincts. Then he sees what you're pulling out. Not a weapon, not cuffs, your phone. You set it on the table between the coffee cups. Pull up a contact. Someone you arrested 5 years ago who did his time and came out the other side different. He runs a network now, not criminal, just off the books. People who need to disappear for reasons that don't fit neatly into legal categories. You slide the phone across the table. Tell Raymond he's got 36 hours before the paperwork catches up. After that, you can't help him. After that, you won't. He looks at the phone for a long time, then at you. His eyes are wet, but nothing falls. He picks up the phone, memorizes the number, slides it back. You stand up, drop cash on the table for coffee. Neither of you drank. Raymond stays sitting. You walk toward the door and you don't look back, because looking back means seeing something you can't unsee. Outside, the air is cold enough to hurt. Your car is parked under the streetlight. You sit behind the wheel with the engine off and your hands at 10 and 2. Somewhere behind you, your brother is making a phone call that erases him. Somewhere ahead, Hendricks is building a case that will go nowhere because the primary suspect will be gone before the warrant gets signed. You'll spend the rest of your career wondering if you made the right choice. You already know you didn't. There was no right choice, just the one you could live with. You start the engine, drive back toward a city that's built on compromises nobody talks about. The badge is still in your pocket, heavier than it was this morning. You'll carry it until it breaks you, or you break first. That's the job nobody tells you about. Not the cases you close, the ones that close you. You won't sleep right for months, maybe longer. The case will officially go cold after Hendricks exhausts every lead that matters, which won't take long once the primary subject vanishes into whatever network swallows people who can't exist in daylight anymore. Your captain will move resources to newer problems. The file will sit in a drawer, gathering dust alongside 1,000 other cases where the answers walked away before anyone could ask the right questions. You'll keep working, keep closing cases, keep sitting across from people who did terrible things and defending the process that determines what happens next, because that's what the job requires. That's what the system needs to function, even when the system fails the moment someone like you decides which rules apply and which ones don't. The badge stays in your pocket, gets heavier every time you touch it, but you don't take it off. Some choices don't come with the option of walking away clean. They just come with the bill, and you pay it in pieces over years until you can't remember what it felt like before the wait.